Okay, good evening. This is the meeting of the Park and Recreations Committee. It's August 15th. Let's do a roll call vote, maybe a vote. We won't vote yet. We'll introduce ourselves.
Brian Vincent.
Dawn Wittenberg. Terry Coe.
Larry Schultz.
Mary Hudson.
Claudio Clopetti.
Jeanette Jones.
Okay, all present. Great. We have the first thing on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the last two meetings. We had the July 18th, 2022 meeting where we visited the parks, and the June 20th meeting, which we held here. The minutes were sent out in your packets. Any questions or corrections in the minutes? Hearing none, a motion would be in order to approve both sets of minutes.
I so move.
Okay, motion by Jeanette, or second?
Second.
Second by Brian. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving the minutes for July 18th and June 20th signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carried. Next on the agenda are petitions, proclamations, suggestions, complaints from citizens, committee members, or staff. Does anybody wish to address the committee this evening? Yes, please come to the podium and introduce yourself and give us your address, please.
Hi everyone, my name is Amanda Cahill. My address is 721 Applewood Circle, Victoria, Minnesota. And the reason I stopped by today is just to show my support for this committee and your work as it relates to the trail gap prioritizations that you started many years ago. Specifically, I just wanted to stop by and show my support for the Bavaria Trail North section to Highway 5. Like I said, I've been watching this project a long time. I know the committee published your recommendations way back in April of 2019. And in this recommendations and trail prioritizations, this section, Bavaria Trail, became the city's #1 priority. And for that, I thank you for all your work on that. And then it actually became a city council strategic goal for 2020 as part of the capital plan in the plan year from 2020 through 2024. And it is even listed as part of the Arboretum Area Transportation Plan and was put into that plan with a build year of 2021. As everyone's probably aware, the county is still moving ahead with the Arboretum Area Transportation Plan. And my great hope is that the city can still find a way to complete this much needed trail as identified by you guys as the city's #1 priority back in 2019. And it still remains so. So again, thank you for all of your time and efforts spent on this project so far and for not giving up on it. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I know we share your sentiments. So. Thanks for coming to speak this evening. Anybody on the committee have any suggestions or complaints from citizens? Claudio?
I had a neighbor approach me in regards to trails. He's a runner and a biker, and he would like to see the little stretch of trail between Steger Lake and Park Avenue. It's only several yards. He'd like to see that paved somehow. He says right now there's a lot of runners that use that as a loop, but that one section from Steger to Park is not paved. I had trouble visualizing where it was at myself. But I just thought, right now it's not in our plan. I think it might be part of our plan if we do the LRT,
Yes.
Kirklocken Lake Bridge.
No, there's actually another one in the plan that addresses the trail from Steiger to Rolling Acres Road. It's part of a contingent on grant funding with the county. So they have submitted in the past grant applications to complete that section of trail, and that it hasn't risen to the top of grant funding through the state. So,
And
but
what,
that is in there.
and what was that grant?
That would be for the grant. It's I don't know if it was
But from where to where?
Steiger to
Rolling.
Rolling Acres Road, the boat landing to Rolling Acres Road. So that is in our plan.
So contingent on the grant.
I was trying to visualize where that was, and then it struck me, I live right on that. Yeah, well, where is that? I think that would be good if somehow we could get that done. I know I know quite a few people that use that stretch, and it's good for most of the year, but in the spring and the fall, it gets a little muddy, or after a heavy rain. But okay, thanks, Claudio.
Thank you.
Don, you?
Yep. So after our parks tour last weekend, we learned that the Deer Run playground will be up has reached the end of its serviceable life and will be up for replacement next year. And I talked with some of my neighbors who have kids about that, and they're curious about, when will the neighborhood survey come out? So that's just an area of question, because we want input on what's replaced there. And then the other thing that I learned is when either the sport court or the tennis courts were replaced, there had been like a little putting green there that was removed at that time, and that's it was something fun for people to do while maybe they were waiting for the tennis courts to be available. So that would have been a wish list that wish that it hadn't been taken back, but the potential for wouldn't it be nice to have that back again?
Yep, the putting green was in really tough shape. It really needed to come out because it was really deteriorating. And the cost to install another one, it can be anywhere in that $5,000 to $10,000 range. So we've just not had the budget enough to do it. And in the past, in evaluating what gets used and what doesn't, that little green saw very little use. So, but that's something I can certainly put back into that in the survey. Likely it'll be coming out sometime early to midwinter.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, other suggestions, comments, complaints people have heard? If not, we'll move on to the next item. New business. The first thing on the agenda is the Lakeside Estates Park Phase 2 planning information. And
Yep, good evening. So in our capital improvement plan, the Lakeside Estates Park Phase 2 is planned for 2023, which is next year already. The first part of the park, which is over to the west here, was completed back in 2016. And then as part of the development in this area, we were able to acquire an additional 3.4 acres. So the park, actually, when this development came through, we had planned for the addition of a ball field and then a parking lot. And I know we didn't visit it this year, but we visited last year. And the road just to the south is actually Marsh Lake Road. And it's a pretty steep hill from the top of that park that goes down to Marsh Lake Road. So the addition, like I said, of a ball field and some trails and then a parking lot has been planned for this park for a number of years. So as part of our park development projects, what we usually do is we go out for design and engineering services. We seek out a firm that will assist us with the several phases of the project itself. First is that design phase, which in this case won't be much because most of it's already designed already. But usually what they do will do topography, they'll do survey work, they will do 60% planned building and then 90% planned building, and then go into that second phase, which is the bidding phase, that they put all the material together, all the specifications, and then put it out for bid, and then actually when the bids come in are participating in that. Then in the construction phase, they usually have a presence on site for some construction observation, and then they also get and submit the bills and any of the work that's done by the contractor themselves. They will submit to the city for payment. But also the city has a responsibility too in these projects. We usually coordinate with the public. We do all our presentations to the City Council and to the Parks and Recreation Committee. We get soil borings, and we review those plans that they have done, and then also the construction administration of the contract between both the engineering firm and the construction firm themselves. And then we also do some construction services, our construction observation as part of that project. So we're looking at getting an RFP out, which I provided you with a draft copy of in your packet, that kind of lays out all of those responsibilities that we're looking for from that design and engineering firm. So we're hoping to get that out in October. November and January would be the time that that firm would complete the plans and then bidding of the project. January, February of 23, we would be presenting the bids to the committee and the city council and then awarding the project, and then have a spring through fall completion of the park. Currently, we have a $350,000 budget. As part of the design services, that the firm also will come up with a cost estimate or a budget estimate for the park construction. So we'll get a little bit better handle on what that actual dollar amount will be for the park construction. So with that, I'm looking for any thoughts, ideas, and then hopefully a recommendation to move forward with the request for proposals for design services for Lakeside Estates Park 2.
Okay, questions for Ann?
Is this budget pretty current, or at least idea, or is it a couple of years old?
It has been in the CIP for a number of years. And so I don't have an idea of what actually the numbers are for today's dollars, but that's,
Gotcha.
we kind of look at what the park size is and past development costs. So as with anything else, things have been going up. So we'll see what happens with this one.
Thank you.
And are we set with the design of the park, meaning the amenities?
Yes, this has been shown to all the neighborhood, all the new neighborhoods that have come in and surrounded this. This has been part of the design since day one. So.
Okay, great.
And with, between phase 1 and phase 2, does that bring us to like a full 5 acres?
Yes.
It does, okay.
Yes. The other one I think was like 2.3 or 2.2, somewhere in there. So yes, it'll get us real close.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions for Ann? If not, motion's in order to recommend to the council approval of the request for proposal and design. We want to make that motion?
I can. I move we recommend approval of the request for proposals for design services for Lakeside Estates Park Phase 2.
Okay, motion by Mary. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Terry. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion's carried. Okay, next item under new business is the review of the Parks and Trails capital improvement plans and 2023 proposed budget. Ann, I'll turn it over to you again.
Sure, thank you. So as you are well aware that we are annual budgeting process, and we start it usually in May or June of the year. And that's why you guys have consistently looked at Trails CIP and Park CIP as a recommendation to the City Council. And also, we look at budgets and provide a recommendation to the City Council on a proposed budget. So first off, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the planned park projects for the next few years. Lakeside Estates Park is planned for 2023. The Bayfront Park Plaza improvements, 2024. And then the Lions Park Shelter renovation, Park Shelter number 2 renovation for 2025. So again, after the first of the year, the committee will get another round of looking at and evaluating and making a recommendation on the CIP. And usually we go out about 5 to 10 years. And as you know, things change, opportunities present themselves. So that's why we look at it on an annual basis. For trail projects, the next trail projects that are planned, and again, you guys have worked tirelessly on this, so you're well aware of where we're going. But Bavaria East, from Alley Lane to County Road 18, is scheduled for 2023. We did hear, and I believe at the last meeting I had talked a little bit about it, that the city combined projects, the County Road or the Steiger Lake Lane West project, the Green Crest Sidewalk project, and then Bavaria Trail. We had all put them together, and based on the timing of the bidding, which was in July, I believe, the city ended up giving the contractor through 2023 to complete all of those projects. So we just got word back a couple weeks ago, or about a week ago, that Bavaria East would be planned for the spring of 2023 for construction. So, and then the second item was the LRT from Lake Bridge to Kirklocken. And then the third, the State Highway 5 underpass at Madeline Creek as part of the Highway 5 improvements. And I don't know if anybody has any questions on those. They're pretty straightforward, and you've seen them a number of times. So,
Where's Bayfront at? Is that right here?
right here, it really is focused on the overlook area. It would tie in the plaza area up here with the bandstand using pervious pavers. It would make an ADA compliant location up on the top here of the trail area. It will require working with Three Rivers Park District because that is their property.
So will there be tree removal? I mean, will you see more water from up here, or?
No, it would just be focused up on this overlook area, the gravel little overlook that's up here.
Okay, gotcha.
So no, it wouldn't have any impact down the hill at all.
Okay. And on the LRT from Lake Bridge to Kirklocken, 2024, it's a long ways away, but it isn't a long ways away. When do you visualize approaching the landowners for this project? Or what's your thinking there? You may not even have it planned right now, and that'd be okay too.
I think I had indicated one of the last meetings that there had been some discussion or some, I will say, rumblings about the property, one of the properties being developed. And I believe that at the next meeting, you may see that, a concept plan for that. So, again, could be an opportunity.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Other questions for Ann? So these are our projects going forward that we prioritized earlier this year. Hearing nobody suggesting changes, we probably can move forward with the budget.
Sure. So for the 2023 Parks and Recreation budget, the Parks and Recreation budget includes all of our recreation programs and activities, just the general Parks and Rec admin, which includes like the porta pots that are out into the area, the parks, paper supplies, things like that. And then also the park maintenance budget is within that Parks and Recreation budget too. So this graphic kind of shows you over the years where the Parks and Recreation budget went. Back in 2006, 2007, it looks like it was doing really well. I don't know what happened back then. I came in 2008, and
Must be your salary.
I don't know, it went down. Well, keep in mind, 2008, we did have the crash. So, it has certainly been trending upwards. We have increased parks. People have moved here. So it's pretty common for a growing community to have that. So right now we're in the middle of budgeting. The city council has seen or heard two budget presentations. So they have, I believe, until September, October to do a max tax. So at that point, they can't go above that max tax, but they can lower it. So they're always looking at ways to reduce the budget, which impacts the tax dollars that you all pay. But right now we're looking, the Parks and Rec budget is looking at about a 12.2% increase, which translates to about $86,000, almost $87,000. Most of that money is geared towards personnel, meaning wages, insurance, and also park maintenance, and then also a recreation program. So those two items are really ones that, as a community grows, are ones that really need to keep up with that. So I did provide you with the line item budget. They're sometimes challenging to read and understand, but I'm happy to answer any questions about the actual proposed budget for 2023.
And a few meetings ago, we talked about, ongoing maintenance for existing facilities and parks. Does this budget include, I know you have park maintenance in here, does this get us up to where we need to be, or is it an incremental step to get us towards where we need to be?
I probably would say somewhere in the middle.
So then that begs the question of if we want to keep current with what needs to be done to protect the investments we have so they last longer, should we be pushing for a bigger increase in maintenance so we don't end up with a bigger expense later if it's not adequate to cover those expenses?
And that's certainly something that, I think as a group, you could certainly make that recommendation. One of the challenges too that we've had is staffing. We have been very challenged this year with staffing. We've lost several full-time people, and have tried to make that up with seasonal people. And I believe that through the Public Works Department, which is where the park maintenance staff reside, they are looking at trying to increase that number of full-time staff, which I think will help a great deal in going with some of those things that actual staff can do versus having to either pay for out of contracted services, or you pay a contractor to do those types of things. So I certainly would like to note that, yes, the costs of maintenance are going to go up, and if we keep that same dollar amount, the increments, we're going to lose ground over 25 years. But it's difficult to try to put an entire budget together that includes all of the city services, that doesn't really increase the tax levy or the tax rate that the city then provides to you on their tax bill. So, we did increase the trail maintenance area. We did increase the playground replacement program. We did increase some contracted services for taking care of Wasserman in particular. So I really tried to hit those areas I thought were really important that we continue to keep on. So.
How many dollars are now put in each year into the trail fund and into the park fund? I think it was
100,000 into the trail fund.
Yeah.
okay.
And I believe they also did for the park fund as well.
Seems like on that form that you sent out, it looked like it was like 250,000 for trails. Or maybe I was reading something wrong.
Yeah, so in 2021, it looked like there was a transfer from the general fund. It's been in that 100. It was supposed to be incremental, and I think back in 20 or 21, it just remained. The council made a decision to go with 100. So, and I believe that the operating transfer, I take that back, sorry. That's the parks fund. The trail fund, yes, in 2022, it doesn't look like there was one made. In 2021, there was a $250,000 one made, and 250 is planned for 2023.
And it looked like that was projected out forward then.
Yes.
So that'll help get us to a few more dollars to.
Yes, based on what our projects are in the trail fund in particular, we start having a pretty low balance out in 2028 with about $19,000 left. In the parks fund, we acquire or get cash within this fund through the development process, where we take either land or cash. So that this fund, and it's based on a very, very conservative number of park dedication coming in, but we're looking at a deficit in 2025 with the park fund. Unless we do something different.
Which would be either put in more dollars into the fund or move a project further out.
Correct.
Okay, is in that budget or the pro forma that you put out, was the park dedication fees that we hope to get from the Madeline Trail project in there? Was that taken out already?
Generally, we don't get those funds until building permit time. So and I know they've got a few houses going in right at the moment, so I don't think that this reflects any fees coming in from that project yet.
Yeah, but that project was, I think, set aside anyway. I mean, we as a committee had suggested that we take the
Yeah,
funds as opposed to
right.
have a park there, and the city council decided to have the park there, which is fine. But that kind of screwed up our budget for, we would have covered our costs for the next 5 years, so now we have to come up with another plan by 2025.
In the performa itself, those dollars were not reflected in the performa that would have come from there. And I misunderstood. I thought you were talking about the project to the north of that.
Oh, okay,
That those funds will be coming in.
okay,
But the funds that, if the city would have taken the cash contribution, those would not, those funds or fees were not included in this, nor were they included in any performa that you were shown in the past.
okay. All right. Other questions people might have?
Yeah, and just in general, when they dedicate park land in a development, we have a choice of getting the land or getting some dollars. When we get the land, does the value of the land and the amenities that go into the park come pretty close to what the dollar equivalent would be?
That's the intent. So it's all based on a land value per acre, and also single-family homes, multifamily homes, apartments all have a different calculation to it on what that land or dollars would be. So as land values have continued to climb, that also applies to the park dedication amount.
So when the city decided to build a park instead of receiving the funds, the actual budget's going to be impacted by those dollars are not available. They're going to come from another source.
Correct.
In essence, probably what happens is we'll have to push another project out. So this new park took a place of something that we had may have taken a place of something we had on our list, unless we get other park dedication fees, which could happen. Ann said it's conservative, and there's a number of new developments, so we still might be okay, but it's just kind of moved something up that wasn't on our list.
Right. So, and it's certainly not intended to make any judgment on pickleball courts, but when you added pickleball courts in at $500,000, that also impacts your performa and how.
Right.
So.
You got to pay for it, don't you?
So, yes, so the intent is, yes, that those dollars would pay for all these projects, but when you are now, with the tennis courts, we're refurbishing tennis courts. We're putting new basketball courts in. We are putting, the pickleball courts in. So those dollars impacted your performa as well. So
Your projected 12.2%, are you comfortable with that amount to get the job done, or are there red flags or risk associated with, the year with the 12.2, or is it?
and certainly, speaking only as a park and rec director, I would love to have that doubled. But as a staff member that also has to work with public works and community development and so we have to take a holistic approach to it as well. because all the departments have needs. So,
Well, we understand what you have to do, but I think as a Park and Recs committee, I think it would behoove us to share our thoughts with the city council and recommend that we think it's real important that we continue to maintain the things that we have, because if we don't, we're going to have inferior facilities or parks, and it's going to cost more later. So, I mean, I would be in favor of at least recommending to the city council that they give some consideration to having the budget that will allow for the proper maintenance of our facilities and parks. And I understand the tax piece. I don't want to pay any more taxes than anybody else does, but at the same time, you know, it's kind of pay me now or pay me later. And it would seem, you know, if we can, I think this is what you're getting at, Claudio, if, you know, are there any red flags there, or can we get by? I mean, if we can get by without jeopardizing, you know, safety or increased cost in the future, you know, then fine, this budget works. But if we're cutting corners or cutting back because we're just looking at taxes and not what the needs are, I think as a committee, I think we at least have to speak up to the, you know, and say to the council that we're concerned about that, and, you know, they can decide how they want to move forward with it. But I don't want to sit here and not say anything, and then 2 years from now say, well, now we need another $400,000 because we didn't keep maintain the facilities we had. Now we have some major repair expenses and things, and then have somebody say, well, how come you didn't say anything before?
Yeah, so another way of just rephrasing the thought anyway, as I thought about it myself, you know, over the past year or so, we've been looking forward. We got plans for 2023 at 12.2%. Are there any major gotchas that you sit back and say, how in the heck are we going to pay for these? How are we going to get these done at this budgeted level? Or are you saying, yeah, it's tough. It always is tough, but yeah, we're going to be able to get to 95% of where we have to be, or 90% of where we have to be.
and I think that the answer is the latter. You know, we have managed fairly well. I will have, you know, as we move forward, I will have some red flags that will go up about turf maintenance, tree maintenance. You know, we had another super hot, super dry summer so far. You know, we have constructed fields with irrigation in them. And when you start talking about irrigating, you know, 20 plus acres of land, it's a significant cost. But do you want them to die and then try to have to you know, rehabilitate them the next year? We had to do that with Lions Park last year. This year we had to keep people off the fields because there was so much damage to it between last summer and fall, and we had no rain. So that's a concern of mine, making sure that the turf, especially in those premium fields out at the rec center, out at D-Town, you know, the Victoria Elementary School fields are irrigated, and then Poppets Field is irrigated. And we are one of the highest users of water in the city. But I know what it took to build those facilities and what it would take to redo them again. So it's a challenge. You know, we're not irrigating crazily, you know, but that is a concern of mine, the turf maintenance moving forward. If we continue to have dry drought weather, that's a concern. Trail maintenance is another area of concern of mine. We have a lot of trails that are reaching some age issues. I think when they constructed them back in the early 2000s, you know, they didn't build them to you know, we didn't have a city standard then where they put, you know, some sand and rock base. So, you know, Cochia Lane, County Road 18, those trails are seeing some pretty significant waving. The freeze and thaw does a number to them. So those two areas are my greatest concern moving forward, that we're going to have a lot of dollars needed for especially trail maintenance. You know, I did a quick budget for the Cochia and County Road 18, you know, and it was pushing that $400,000 to $500,000 for new trails. So those two areas I think are of concern as we move forward. But I think it's concern of every community that has facilities like this.
So I've just got a question, because what I'm understanding that the projected 12.2% increase is just getting us barely there, maybe a little wiggle room. But in addition to that, looking at 2025, it looks like we would be in a deficit even with this. Am I understanding that right?
Well, these two are separate.
Okay.
So this is our general fund budget. That's our annual year-to-year.
Okay.
It pays for, you know, all of the lawn mowing and swing replacement and, you know, the brochures that come out for all the programming. So that's what the 12.2% is. The CIP, the trail fund and the park fund are separate from this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Either way, it's not looking really good.
Where does the Emerald Ash Borer program, does that fit into this, or is that
That is a separate program. We have a tree, I will call it a tree fund for a lack of better term. When developers are not able to replace trees within their development at the rate which the city requires them to, they have to put in dollars into the fund that we use for Emerald Ash Borer, we use for boulevard tree replacement. That comes out of that fund, separate fund. The general fund budget for parks will pay for park trees if we need to replace them or buy new trees or do tree trimming or cut down trees that are dead. That would come out of this budget.
Other questions, comments, or concerns for Ann?
I hate to do this, but I have one more. I mean, we had Rainbow in visiting Lake Bridge, and they were doing some of the ash trees. And I'm bringing up Lake Bridge only because it's I don't know how unique it is, but we have Lakes Parkway. That's a main thoroughfare. But then on a lot of the other residential streets, the trees are planted on the
Boulevard.
On the boulevard. Is Rainbow doing those ash trees as well, or just on the main?
They would be doing all of them in the boulevard as well.
Okay, and other developments that have the same situation, it would be?
Yes.
Okay, excellent.
Yes.
So Larry, are you suggesting that somehow we can finesse this motion a little bit to say we would like to see it a little more? Some way to let the city council know. I don't know. What do you?
Well, maybe what we say is, you know, I don't know if Ann's looking for a recommendation, or, you know, if he's looking for a recommendation, then recommendation would be, here's the budget. We are a little concerned about maintaining our parks and facilities within this budget long-term. And would urge the council to consider the potential cost of not doing proper maintenance now with what it might cost in the future, and put it in their hands. I mean, it's not, we don't do the financing part of this, the council handles that. So I guess all we can do is make a recommendation, but I personally feel that we should, you know, let them know that we're concerned about the potential cost if we skimp on maintenance now, or don't, I mean, get it on the radar.
It sounds like we may not have an issue next year, but it's a potential. And to get it on the radar makes a lot of sense, because at least it's, I don't know at this point in the budgeting process if they're going to say, oh yeah, let's give Ann another 6%. But if it's planted and presented to them in a way that next year we may need to make sure we have that excess, not excess, but incremental funding to make sure we don't get caught.
Yeah.
And I would add that last Monday, the department heads presented a real brief budget, you know, what we do, where are the pinch points. And I did also show them, I know that I presented you guys with the graph of, you know, here's where we are, here's where we need to be. I did present that again to them. And there was some discussion about that. And so I think they're well aware of the need to keep working on this.
And they are the management team or the council?
The council.
Okay. Okay. All right. So, but it doesn't hurt for us to put our
Right, and
cents where it fits.
yeah, I mean, and if there is something that, you know, I could bring back, you know, in September that may help with understanding. Granted, I think, you know, we are moving down that path of, you know, I don't know if we're going to get any additional funding this year, but I could certainly try to put something together to show you where those pinch points are, and look at it in October
I think that would,
or September.
I think that'd be helpful for us. I mean, because I guess if I was on the council and I got the recommendation, I'd say,
Yeah.
well, what's
Yeah.
the gap?
Yeah,
And it would be nice to know what the gap is, so then we can, you know, maybe more intelligently say, here's what we need, and we can get by this coming year. I think it's important for us to have that list, and even some of the other items, the trail maintenance and those things too. I think, you know, a heads up on those. I think if it's not right in front of you, it's not broke, it's easy to spend your money on other things, and then all of a sudden you get a big bill. You know, if you ignore your air conditioning and HVAC system at home and you don't take care of it, and all of a sudden now you're spending, you know, $10,000 that you weren't planning on. Trails, sounds like if we don't pay attention to it, all of a sudden, you know, it's 500,000.
And it's not 1 or 2 years from now, it's 5 or 10 years from now, when it, 10 years from now is when all of a sudden the gap that was this big is now.
Do you need a motion, Ann, or just a general, just the discussion we've had?
yeah, I think that's good, and I will try to put something together for the next meeting that, you know, we'll talk a little bit about what the costs are and what we're spending, and I'll try to put something together that may make some, I'll try to make it make some sense anyway.
One of the other things too that that's more in the capital improvement plan, and that's a trail funding. You know, now it's up to $250 a year, which is great. And I think we found that, you know, the trails aren't getting any cheaper to build, and, you know, we need to accumulate, you know, maybe 4 years worth of funding to have one trail done. And I wonder at what point do we encourage the council, and maybe they've already done this, to look at, would it make sense to, instead of doing the incremental piece we have with interest rates still low, would it make sense to, if possible, to bond for some of these trails and do a number of them, and then use the money that's set aside each year to pay off the bonds? It just seems to me if we wait, you know, 4 years to do the next trail, it's going to be incrementally more expensive. And I don't know if anybody's looking at that or not, but I think it'd be wise to do that from a city, from a financial standpoint. And I realize there's other things that, you know, the city needs to bond for too, but just a thought.
Yep, and it would likely require some sort of referendum.
Okay.
Otherwise, you'd be looking at like some sort of, whether it be revenue bonds or that, it tends to get above my head. But generally, when you start talking about park improvements or trail improvements, it would likely require a referendum.
Okay. But is that something that the council's ever considered?
I don't know if this one has, but
Okay.
I don't know if it's ever been broached.
It'd be nice, I think, from again, we don't do the financing piece of this, so if I'm talking out of school, let me know. But it just seems from a city standpoint, if there's a way to do a study to show, and maybe it doesn't make sense, maybe the $250 a year set aside and do it incrementally, maybe that's the best way to go, but we really don't know unless we've looked at, kind of done a feasibility study as to, you know, what it would cost the other way. And then with that information, then the council could decide, do we want to continue doing what we're doing, or do we want to do something different?
That's certainly something I can, speak with the finance director about. And I do know the council was in favor of utilizing cash for all those projects. So that I do know.
Okay. Any other comments on the budget process?
On your idea of bonding, are there plans for future bonding that we might be able to piggyback on? Just like the Bavaria Trail, we piggybacked on some other projects. And if it's a $10 million bonding versus 12 or 13 is maybe received differently by the community than, $3 million or $5 million for just trails. But I don't know how a city works the whole bonding, if it's every 5 years, if they say, hey, we're gonna need to bond because of our growth rates.
And there are certainly different means of bonding, and for different projects, like some will have, I'll take a street project, for example, that will have assessments that will pay back part of that project. So, and then you have water and sewer projects, for example, that are development and or bonding will pay for that your utility bills will be impacted by that. That's going to pay back those bonds. So I know there are different methods and means to bonding and how that works, and maybe I can try to get some more information on that too. at least like bonding 101 or something, or bonding for dummies.
Okay, anything else for Ann?
And you need a motion?
I think that what I'll do is plan to come back next month.
Okay, okay.
With a little more information for you guys that we'll have.
We'll give you a motion if you want a motion.
I think the Parks and Trails CIP would be okay, I guess.
Well, you want to do the CIP?
Yeah, that's the one I was looking at.
Oh, that's on here.
Yeah.
I move the Parks and Rec Committee recommend the Parks and Trail CIP and 2023 proposed budgets.
I second that.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Do we assume that, Ann, you'll bring forward our general discussion outside of this?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion's carried. Okay. Next are the information on the rec center.
Sure, I'm gonna kind of flip-flop them, since that's how I had it in my
Okay,
slides.
that's my agenda here. News articles.
Yeah,
And then,
so, yeah, I'm gonna flip them. So, this is providing, membership information from June and July. Usually in the summertime, we tend to drop, members and visits, because people are outside recreating, especially the pickleballers. They don't come and visit us much, unless it's raining or super cold. So I know that has an impact on those numbers. So, yeah, we are down a little bit, but we are still busy within the facility. So just passing along that. The pickleball courts we have started construction. We started about a week ago, and the crews were out today. The safety fencing and silt fencing is up. They've removed most of the concrete and blacktop that was there today. So, and I know they've got a big pile of rock there and all the drain tile. So we are making some progress on that as well. So I think substantial completion was sometime in October 30th or something like that. So weather permitting.
okay.
And then the news articles, I wanted to
Who's that person?
I wanted to bring this forward. So Jeanette was a big star in the local paper.
Nice. Okay.
The only other thing, our new fitness equipment, the strength equipment will be arriving on Wednesday of this week. I've had a fun few days. We did a bidding process to get rid of some of the old stuff. So it's amazing. The place is empty right now. I didn't think it would go like it did, but all the big stuff went. We're down now to a few weight plates and a couple benches. So I'm going to anticipate we're going to get rid of those too before all is said and done. So, but the new equipment will be moving in Wednesday morning. So
Was that worth your staff time to do that sale?
I believe that at one point I told Holly, don't ever do this again. However, we are going to make some money where otherwise we would have had to pay somebody to get rid of it. So, we'll probably end up with a couple $1,000s, I think, when all is said and done. So it's something.
Okay. Good. Anything else?
Are the bathroom, locker room renovations all completed?
No, we haven't even begun those yet. Those were delayed. So I hope that maybe in the next year or two, we'll get working on them.
Will the outdoor pickleball courts reduce revenues? I mean, like when people go into play, if they're not members, they have to pay, right?
No, it'll be open to all, but we
But is indoor,
we
indoors
only make
open to all as well?
that's where we will make our money, and we will continue to make our money.
On the indoor?
Yes.
Gotcha, okay.
So we won't lose any revenue with. And Jeanette may want to talk about some ideas that they had. And we just had a meeting this past week about it. So I'll let her talk about that.
Yeah, one of the pickleball people suggested that we have a pickleball tournament as a fundraiser, funds for the city. And we're looking at maybe Friday, October the 14th. And that the funds would be used and donated to the city just to support the city, that pickleball players have an investment in the success of the pickleball courts. And we also talked about that probably 50% of the players are not Victoria residents that will use the courts. So it's a public service thing. It's to showcase, well, we'll do this in the fall and then we'll probably do another one when the courts are open. But it's in the very initial planning process at this point.
Okay,
Good idea.
great. Okay, well, we made some progress this last year and looking forward to more progress this year. Anything else? Not, a motion's in order to adjourn.
We don't want to go.
I so move.
Okay,
And I would second that.
second.
I would second that.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.